6:02 p.m. We're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance from Miss Commissioner Ruby Cohens. Are you going to do it? Okay, well, Jen Houston is going to do it. All right.
Okay, everyone. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Richard,
Present.
Vice Chairperson Cohens,
Present.
Commissioner Houston.
Present.
Okay, item D, oral communications. This is the time for the public to address the Planning Commission on the consent calendar or any other matters that are not on the public hearing portion of the agenda. After obtaining permission to proceed by the presiding officer, speakers should first state their full name and address for the record, but it is not required. The speaker shall limit their address to 3 minutes. Any public comments that are discriminatory, defamatory, or otherwise not protected speech will not be considered, consented to, or otherwise adopted by the Planning Commission in its deliberations and findings. As a courtesy to others, please silence your cell phones and other electronic devices. The Planning Commission strives to treat all participants with civility, and we ask that you do the same. I'm giving you seconds. I see a lot of cell phones being silenced there. But also today, as we do have a lot of folks here, let's please remember we do need to keep our remarks to 3 minutes. There will be a lot of remarks, I'm sure. So with that being said, if anyone would like to address the Planning Commission on items not on the consent or on the consent calendar or other matters, please form a line there at the middle.
If you're here for the subdivision, that's a public hearing. That your opportunity will come up later. So what's on the consent calendar are minutes of previous meetings and a time extension for a map. That's all. But any matters that are not on public hearings, this is the time to speak.
Thank you for that clarification. Okay. Seeing no one, I will close oral communications. Item E. Do I read out the? Yeah.
That's mine.
Sure.
Hello, my name is Judith Trujillo. I reside at 4500 West 129th Street. I've been a longtime resident, but I'm a little confused about the meeting. We were told that this was a meeting on the Planning Commission in regard to the rezoning or whatever
So,
on
I got you.
El
Don't
Segundo
worry.
Boulevard.
Yeah, so that's what Greg was just explaining. There's a number of things on the agenda. What we're looking at right now is the consent calendar. There will be a public hearing open for that part. That'll still be during this meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, items on the consent calendar are the Planning Commission meetings of February 21st, 2024, Planning Commission minutes of April 17th, 2024, Planning Commission minutes of May 15th, 2024, time extension request for the hotel project at 11444 Acacia Avenue. We can take a motion.
For it, any motions?
I motion to vote.
Move to it's approved.
To approve, I mean, I'm sorry, yeah.
Do I have a second?
Okay, these are just for the minutes, correct?
And
And
the
the time
time
Minute and
extension
the time extension.
for the permit for the hotel.
If there's anything on there that you'd like to pull, you just mention the item. So if it's 4, you just pull item 4.
Well, I was going to ask about the Acacia Hotel.
Yeah, if you just have a question, you can make the motion, and then that, before we vote, we can deal with questions.
Okay.
If you want to discuss that item separately, then pull it from the consent calendar.
I'll pull it.
Okay, so we're just dealing with the 3 minutes.
Correct.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve.
I motion to approve just the minutes.
3 minutes.
Approve.
Second.
Second.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, Commissioner Houston,
Yay.
Vice Chairperson Cohens,
Yes.
Chairperson Richard.
Yes.
Okay, now you have the floor.
Okay, well, I just want to know if everything was followed. Well, I just want to know on the extension itself, there was a little confusion. I saw some emails. I saw some emails, basically, and I saw the extension, but they never received a rebuttal afterwards.
Is this
So-
from the law firm that you were seeing the emails? No? What
No,
are-
there
The
was some,
two people emails that came in, not from the law firm, they're in here.
no, I saw those emails as well. Correct. I saw those emails, but just to confirm, the extension for that hotel, it wasn't ever lapsed, correct?
Oh, you're talking about the emails requesting the extension? Oh, yeah. No, it didn't lapse. They made the request before it, well, it's lapsed now, but it would be retroactively reinstated. And because they made their application before the hotel lapsed, that's acceptable practice.
Okay.
It doesn't extend beyond 1 year from the date it expired. It's not 1 year from today, it's from when it expired. So it's just related to the difficulty of getting,
All the paperwork and so forth?
and the commissioners all here at the same time, so.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. Okay, basically that was the only question. Now, say that he doesn't finish, for instance, we give him the extension, he doesn't finish at all.
We have to do a new CUP.
It is going to be okay, that was the clarification that I
Yeah,
needed.
this was an approved CUP, and if it lapses for the final time, then a new CUP would be required.
Okay, and so this is considered the final time then?
Yes.
Okay, then I'm good now. You just
Okay.
clarified it for me.
Okay, so we need a motion.
Motion to approve?
Second?
Okay. Vice Chairperson Cohen's,
Yes.
Commissioner Houston,
Yes.
and Chairperson Richard.
Yes.
Okay, this item was continued, or extended for the year. Okay, that concludes the consent calendar. There are no continued public hearings, so now we're at the portion of the new public hearings. First item is Design Review Application DR 2024-0008.
Now is the time and place to open the public hearing to consider design review DR 2024-0008. Senior Planner Maria Meharek will present the staff report.
Good evening, Commissioners. I do not have a staff report as we are requesting a continuance of this item to a later date to make sure that all items are ready to go for your review and decision.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to continue this item.
I second.
For clarification, is this continued to a date uncertain?
We had requested July 17, 2024, but right now we are requesting to a date is uncertain.
Okay, whenever we continue to a date uncertain, we'll renotice the public.
Okay.
Okay.
So we will I'll entertain a motion to continue this item to a date uncertain.
A motion, yeah. Second. Wait,
Motion,
oh my gosh, I'm getting so mixed
just
up
say
today.
yes. Say a motion?
Yes.
A motion,
Okay, cool. Second,
Who made the motion?
motion,
yes.
second.
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 Vote. Okay, Vice Chairperson Cohen's,
Yes.
Commissioner Houston,
Yes.
and Chairperson Richard.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank
so this
you.
item is continued.
All right.
Okay.
Next is Design Review Application DR 2024-0004.
Now is the time and place to open the public hearing to consider design review application DR 2024-0004. Assistant Planner Anais Bermudez will present the staff report.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'll be presenting the design review application for the Holy Resurrection Church and School located at 4955 West 119th Street. The church is located in a residential zone surrounded predominantly by residential uses. It's located on the corner of 119th Street and Felton Avenue, and just across Felton Avenue is another religious assembly use, the New Life Community Church. The parcel is rather large at just over 28,000 square feet, and currently on the lot are two structures. One is the main auditorium for the church, and the other is the school and classroom area. Both are going to be remodeled and slightly expanded. This is what the facade of the structure currently looks like from 119th Street. It's 2 stories, a little over 32 feet tall, and as you can see, there's plenty of street frontage, so that gives great opportunity to improve the landscaping, which we'll look at later. This is an alternative view of the buildings from Felton Avenue. You can see the school on the left has the flat roof, and the church is on the right with the gable roof. So this is the proposed site plan. Some of the modifications are shown with the yellow highlight, with the orangey yellow highlight. The roof is going to be expanded to accommodate some widened side aisles on either side of the church. This is not to increase the number of seats in the auditorium, but just to accommodate ADA accessibility, so there's a nice path of travel to get through there. Also shown is a new tower and elevator that's going to serve both of the main floors of the church, as well as the 3rd floor roof deck. There is going to be a 3rd floor roof deck as well as a 2nd floor roof deck, and on the 3rd floor is a new kitchenette and ADA restroom. So this is the proposed layout for the 1st floor. As I mentioned earlier, one of the changes is going to be widening to the side aisles to allow that increased accessibility. The altar in the front of the church is being redesigned and reshaped. Some of the restrooms are going to be relocated to the southwest corner of the church. There's going to be a new sacrament bakery and lounge area. When it comes to the school side, there's going to be a remodel of the restroom and a little kitchenette added or a little coffee area rather added near the kitchenette, which is existing. This is the proposed layout of the 2nd floor. On the far west side, there's a new conference room and office space. Adjacent to that is an existing mezzanine area that is going to be remodeled so that it opens out to the outdoor deck. Toward the front of the church is going to be another little lounge area or a small conference room. I can't quite tell from here, but it's one of the two. And then on the school side, there's going to be another restroom remodel. So this gives us a closer look at the roof decks that are being added. On the 2nd floor, it's about 1,600 square feet, and a staircase can take you up to the 3rd floor roof deck, as well as an elevator that serves that area. The 3rd floor roof deck will be approximately 2,600 square feet, and it'll be enclosed on all sides by a 24-inch parapet wall, and above that, a 42-inch tempered glass guardrail. So all in all, about 5.5 feet of protection on all sides. There will also be a new kitchenette and restroom up there. These are the north and south elevations, which give us a view of what the exterior of the structure will look like after the remodel. As you can tell, it's a very traditional church. There's going to be ornate decorations and copper domes, as well as gold crosses that adorn the building. There's a tower there too that we'll analyze in a moment. These are alternate elevations where you can see other angles. Also included in the scope of work of this project is landscaping. So mulch is going to be added to existing plant areas to freshen up what's existing, and the designers have proposed to add new varieties of trees and shrubs. These are the varieties that have been called out by the designer. There's going to be citrus trees and different types of plants and bushes. Those vibrant colors, such as the orange and the purple and the blue, are going to provide nice pops of color to really enhance the street frontage of this project. So this tower is one of the key design elements of this project. It's functional as it encloses the elevator. It's also it's also a design element. So we have the cross at the top, as well as a little copper gold dome that's up there. what looks to be like a little glass window on that tower is actually a proposed electric message center. So I'd like to point out that that's going to be reviewed separately by the planning department, because we have to make sure that meets the zoning code, and so we'll be reviewing that separately. The tower is proposed to be a little over 72 feet tall, so that is significant, but it's not unlike some other steeples that we have in the church. They're in the city. There's St. Joseph's Church as well as Trinity Lutheran that both have tall steeples. So it's seen elsewhere in the city as well. This is a close-up of the roof plan, much of which is going to be existing. The shingles are to remain. The roof will be expanded to accommodate those widened side aisles. And the roof dome is another design element that stands out, and it's going to be about 16 feet tall and 25 feet in diameter, so it is significant, and that's included in this slide. And that brings us to the staff recommendation, which is that we recommend for the Planning Commission to adopt the resolution 2024-13 with conditions of approval, approving design review application DR 2024-0004.
Thank you. Okay. Does the Planning Commission have any questions for staff?
Just to confirm that right now, with what we are voting on, it is not the electric sign that's going to come up at a different point to see if it measures. This is just the structural plan that was put forth.
Correct. The electronic message center will be reviewed only by the planning department, as signage usually is.
Thank you.
Yes.
No questions.
Questions? I had a quick question just on the bathroom. You
Sure.
mentioned that there on the second floor that there is a new ADA bathroom being added
The third floor.
on the third floor. The reason I asked the question, is there a first floor ADA bathroom already existing?
Good question. I don't have the full set of plans in front of me, but I do know that third floor, there's only going to be one bathroom up there, and it is ADA accessible. As far as first floor goes, I would need to check the plan set to confirm, or perhaps the designers can speak to that.
Okay, gotcha. That's it for me. Okay, is the applicant present and do they wish to speak?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and the Commission. My name is Ike Mbello, the project architect, and my client is right here, Father Cyril. On the issue about the ADA, we do have on each floor ADA restrooms,
Perfect.
and they are all accessible through the elevator.
Awesome. Okay. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't just only an ADA bathroom on the
No.
third floor.
Each floor has it, including the roof,
Yeah.
the one on the roof.
Oh, right. Okay. Does the Planning Commission have any questions of the applicant?
None.
No questions.
Okay.
Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
We
Appreciate
appreciate
you
it.
for being
Thank you
here.
very much.
Thanks.
Okay. Mr. McLean, are there any documents to place in the administrative record?
There are none, but this is also the opportunity if anyone in the public wants to address the commission.
Oh, okay. I did miss that one. Is there anyone who wishes to address the commission on this issue? Okay, seeing none. There's no documents. Do my fellow commissioners have any final comments on this item or questions of staff?
None.
No further questions.
Good, okay. I'll formally close the public hearing on these items. And do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
The second. The secretary, please call for the vote.
Vice Chairperson Collins,
Yes.
Commissioner Houston,
Yes.
and Chairperson Richard.
Yes.
Okay, this application is approved. Thank you.
Awesome, okay.
Next is subdivision development application SD 2024-0002.
Give me 1 second, let me get stuff moved around here.
SD 220.
Now is the time and place to open the public hearing to consider subdivision development application SD 2024-0002. Assistant Planner Nathan Levy will present the staff report.
Good evening, Commissioners. So we have before you a proposal for a vesting tentative tract map. This tentative tract map here revolves around the Hawthorne Nursery site. The owners are proposing to develop it, and in order to do that, they need to combine the 15 existing parcels into two, one north of El Segundo Boulevard and one south. The primary issue here is that vesting tentative tract map. The development and the permitting of the actual housing is not part of this project. That is because the City Council has passed several ordinances that implement a housing overlay. This was part of the general plan. This was part of the housing element update that I think only Commissioner Richard was on the commission at that time, but did go through the Planning Commission. The City Council has stated that a residential development is a by right approval within the housing overlay. So when we look at the site, we see that it does have different zoning. We've got a mix of commercial and residential, but like I mentioned, it's all within a housing overlay. So the housing overlay was established, it was approved in 2022. This housing overlay is where the City Council established that by right development. So currently, as I mentioned, there's 15 total parcels across both sites. It has a total of just over 3 gross acres. There are 4 existing structures on the site. They're on the northern section of the site. There's some homes that have not been used in a very long time, as well as some other structures that the nursery used. So here we have a snapshot of the current conditions on the northern section. You can see that it's bounded by Gravilla and Manor, and we can see that there is residential on the west and the north, and there is some institutional use to the east. With the southern section, we see similar. We see commercial, or excuse me, we see residential on the west and the south, partially on the east. We also have a church, the Church of the Nazarene. This is just to give you an idea. This is the current assessor parcel map from the Los Angeles County Assessors. The highlighted in red are the sections that are north of El Segundo Boulevard. So these are the proposed parcels to be combined into one parcel with this application. So if this does get approved, that's what the assessor's parcel map will eventually be updated to reflect. The southern site is going to be the same thing. These parcels will all be combined into one. We do have a preliminary site plan that we are showing here. Please remember that these site plans are tentative. They're subject to change. They do have to be reviewed by all relevant city departments. So we're looking at the Building and Safety Department, the Planning Department, as well as Public Works and the MPDES review. So they have to go through all of the requirements in order to be issued any permits for building or for grading for anything. So on the site, we have both northern and southern sections presented here. These are all going to be ownership units for sale at market value. They are townhomes, so we're not looking at apartments or condos. Here is a little bit closer of the northern section. I did want to point out this is what's being proposed for access. So there's 2 access points, one on Manor Drive and one on El Segundo. This is in order to accommodate fire as well as trash. So it's required essentially in order for it to be safe and accessible. They are currently proposing 60 garage stalls for the residents, as well as an additional 12 open stalls on the northern section alone. Right now, as far as we can tell, if it were to come under just the objective design standards, we would require 45 roughly stalls. So they're well in excess of that. The southern site is similar. There's only one entrance on this, but if you take a look, you can see that it does loop around, and there are turning points for fire and for trash. There's a few more stalls on the southern section than there are in the northern. There's 66 for residents. There's 8 open for guests and residents. Right now, it looks as if there would be 51 required under the objective standards. Two important things to note. The primary one here is that 129th is completely closed off. There will be no vehicular access from 129th into the project. There will be there is a proposed retaining wall that will be put in place there to limit any visual impacts that may occur. At this time, we do want to recommend that the Planning Commission adopt a notice of exemption and PC Resolution 2024-15 with the conditions approving subdivision application 2024-0002.
Thank you. Does the Planning Commission have any questions for staff?
I have a question. So today we are just voting on taking this from 15 lots down to 2, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
When the build is going to take place and permits are going to need to be issued, I'm assuming this is when we get into is there going to be turn lanes? Are there going to be all of these types of questions that get a little deeper into the minutia than for this right now? Or
so
is this the time to ask?
This is the only time this project will be in front of the commission unless there's an appeal of some sort that requires it to come back.
Building permits have already been approved?
No. Let me add that the applicant has already met with the Public Works Department to discuss turn lanes and that sort of thing, and they've come to an agreement on how that will be done. So there will be adjustments on El Segundo Boulevard to accommodate the properties.
Okay.
And those are reflected in the resolution before you. We incorporated all of the requests from the Public Works Department in order to ensure that.
I know, I read it. I'm
Okay.
just asking so other people here can hear it, right? I don't know if they read the staff report. Ruby?
Well, yeah, you go ahead. Well, now that you raise another question for me. So as you mentioned, right now, today, we're voting simply to combine these parcels. But you're also stating that we won't see this project again before it's approved to go into build phase. So will there be a point where there's a design review that?
No. So this project is exempt from design review, and that's based on the housing overlay section that was added by City Council. So the housing overlay is specifically exempted, but it does have to meet objective design standards. So along with that housing overlay addition, there was another addition of an entire chapter devoted to those objective design standards. So those standards will apply to like the project we have before us within the housing overlay, and also apply to the multitude of different types of affordable housing applications that require objective design standards.
Gotcha. Okay.
I know this is going to seem repetitive. So just to be clear, we're only voting to have the 2 parcels, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you're also saying that it's administerial then? The rest of it? Since because of RENA and the housing element? Am I reading you correct on that?
It's ministerial.
Ministerial.
Meaning that the decision has no opportunity for discretion whatsoever. It's simply a matter of, does it meet the codes? This is the outcome of the state laws and the need to accommodate our regional housing needs assessment that was part of the housing element. In order to hit the numbers that the state requires, we had to designate certain properties around the city that were likely to be developed and were appropriate for residential into these housing overlay. And the housing overlay sets a standard that is 30 units to the acre. This is under that, I believe, slightly. But the housing overlay does not specify that it has to be townhomes, ownership. It could be apartments. And it doesn't say that it has to be affordable. These are not affordable. These are market rate units. If it were affordable, we would have even less control over the situation. There would be no control on density, no control on height, no control on anything. So I think that the question before you, in addition to just making it 2 parcels, is you're paving the way for this only to be a ownership project.
Now, any of these townhomes being developed, are they going into the numbers?
Yeah, all
For right now.
housing that's built will count in some fashion. These are not counting as affordable, these are market rate. There is a category for market rate. And since we're still very early in our, excuse me, in our housing cycle, these will count. After we achieve our goal in the market rate, any additional market rate housing just is not gonna count, but we wouldn't stop it from being developed. But these will all count, absolutely.
So they will count, but they won't be affordable?
Right, these are market rate.
None of them? Not?
We haven't asked for any to be.
Okay. Are we able to put conditions, though, at all?
Well, it depends what sort of conditions you're looking
Any
at.
conditions that you make have to have a nexus to the application. The application is 15 to 2 lots. So if you can find a way to make that connection to the 15 to 2 lot problem, you can have a condition. Anything else is not going to be permitted.
I'm just actually, my concern is always about parking.
Yeah.
Is there a way of just making sure that there's some type of parking agreement within this development? Some type of parking agreement?
No, because you can't make the nexus that has anything to do with the number of lots. Now, the applicant has taken it upon themselves to provide surplus parking, a considerable amount of surplus parking, and every unit has assigned parking in a garage, in addition to guest parking on the outside. So they've kind of taken the issue off the table to some extent.
I did see that.
Yeah.
And I did appreciate all that because I saw the tandem parking, I saw the two-car garage, I saw the surplus, which is wonderful. But I just want to get a clarification. Did you just say that it could be changed?
So these plans are preliminary, yes. You know, that is the nature of this sort of development, is that these are preliminary, and these were added essentially to assure the commissioners, as well as the public that's here today, of what exactly the developers are trying to do here. You know, this was viewed largely as a very good project compared to other ideas that were seen and that were proposed, especially as far as density of dwelling units goes. Yes, it may change. That's a possibility in this situation. Again, though, you come to the issue of trying to connect any requirements for parking with the actual project in front of us of the merge.
But when you say change, that means that although you say that there's going to be two-car garages, two tandem parking, so forth, or the spaces, can the developer come back and say, no parking outside? I'll just get the 35 guest parking outside and that's it.
They have to meet the objective design standards, which do address parking.
Okay. So all that.
It may change, but no matter what, in order to have a building permit issued to them to start construction, to get a certificate of occupancy, they have to meet the objective design standards.
And what about the vegetation itself?
That's part of the objective design standards. It's incorporated.
Is there anything stating maybe like every 10 parking spaces we can at least have a tree or something tied down to just to make sure that we have something there?
I apologize, I don't remember what the design standard for trees in parking lots is, but they are codified into the municipal code, and the question is, does it meet the code requirements or not? And that's the decision we'll make when we get the application.
Gotcha.
And again, there's not a clear nexus to the map at this point.
Okay. No more questions for me.
Any good? Any questions for you, Jen? Good? Okay. Okay. Is the applicant present, and do they wish to speak? Yes. Front again.
Good evening, Chair Richard, members of the commission. My name is Chad Brown. I'm Vice President Planning and Development for a private home builder company named Malia Homes. Where's my button? Thanks. Let's roll, please. So Malia Homes is, as I said, is a private home builder. We have developed homes in southern LA County, Orange County, northern San Diego County. We are a for sale builder. We're not an apartment construction company. So everything that we do is a product that is for sale to future homeowners. And I've been working as an infill builder for 13 years for Malia Homes. Prior to that, I worked for the City of Laguna Niguel and the County of Orange in the planning departments. So I'm very familiar with infill and compatibility and some of the challenges that come along with infill developments. And the project that we have before us tonight is something that is a result of the housing overlay and the state housing element and City of Hawthorne's general plan, housing element updates and so forth that have come on. But again, we're looking at it from a standpoint for quality development and quality from a quality builder. The slide in front of you are two recent projects that Malia Homes has constructed. One is in the city of Gardena. The top two photos are those of the city of Gardena, our Moneta Point project. That was 84 homes on an old, ironically enough, a nursery site that would existed in Gardena. The bottom two photos before you are the city of Anaheim. Again, 3-story row townhomes, home ownership. You see kind of the front entry, the paseo, as well as the landscape. And the right photo is that of something similar to what we're proposing here for a recreation area. Some shelter, some play space, and some outdoor tables and a barbecue tabletop for the residents on each site to be able to enjoy. There's one proposed on both of those, and I'll get into that a little bit further. As we talked about and staff presented, this is the Hawthorne Nursery site, just a stone's throw here from City Hall. And it is one of the many sites throughout the city that have been selected with the housing overlay that carries a density range of 20 to 30 units per acre. So this site could potentially have up to 94 units on it. Combined, it's about 3.4, 3.3 acres. We're proposing a total of 68 homes on these. Again, it's because the homes, when they are for sale, they need to be marketable, they need to be attractive, and they need to have a want for people to come and invest their monies in their future with them. And we recognize that, and therefore, they range in size. I'll cover that a little bit further, but they range in size of something from 1, 2, 3, and 4-bedroom homes. 2-car garages, 2-car garages with tandem, and single-car garages. But every home has an attached garage with it, with direct access into the house, into their personal house. The nursery site was selected by the city as a part of it, and we were contacted. They reached out, various brokers reached out to Malia Homes to see if we were interested in it. And we put some information and obviously a plan together, make sure it works economically, that it achieves the level of quality, and we decided to move forward with it. Again, this is a result of the general plan. It's a result of the housing overlay, and it's a result of the state, as Mr. McLean has mentioned. But it also follows the adopted mixed-use and multifamily guidelines, the objective guidelines that the city has adopted to make sure it has ample parking, to make sure that it is set back proper distances, to make sure that it's designed properly. We have included all of that with it. So, as has been indicated, what's before you tonight is the subdivision of this property. The subdivision is required in order for the project to be for sale. We have to go through the Department of Real Estate of the state of California process, condo maps, and they need to be related to a map process. If we were to build rental units or build apartments or propose to build apartments on this property, we wouldn't be here tonight. The fact that this is for sale and we're asking for the subdivision map to be approved is that this is a for sale project and not something that is for rent. The site itself, as I said, is a little over 3 acres and could potentially have up to 94 units on it, based upon the housing overlay density allowances. The map is providing for easement dedications to increase the parkway widths around all perimeter of the site, meaning the sidewalks will be improved with a 6-foot sidewalk and a 4-foot landscape planter outside of the perimeter walls, with the exception of 129th Street, where that street and parkway are currently fairly narrow, and the current parkway is 7 feet. That sidewalk will be improved to a full width 7-foot sidewalk with planter wells for trees to be planted every 50 feet on center, up at the elevation of 129th Street along what would be the southerly boundary of this project. And again, as staff has pointed out, although not subject of the discretionary action before you tonight, I thought that it would be a good idea to present to the Planning Commission a little bit greater detail of the project that we are proposing with the subdivision map and what it would look like, how it will live, and some of the amenities and the thought that has gone behind it. I would like to add that I'm a little bit surprised by the turnout of the residents that are behind me. Back when we initially started looking at this property in January, February, earlier this year, part of our due diligence research is I send out letters to all property owners that are directly, and this may be a little bit of the confusion side, the property owners that are directly adjacent to or directly across from the project area, to solicit input, to solicit comments, to provide for them some basic information about what we are proposing to do. And that all goes in line with me talking with the city staff and understanding what the regulations are. But I reached out, and I'll go into this in greater detail if we want to discuss about the outreach that was done on this. But it started in February. I had multiple calls and discussions with many neighbors, mostly generated from Manor Drive, directly to the west of the site of Lot 1 of the proposed subdivision. Lot 2, I only heard from one resident on the north side of 129, or the south side of 129th Street above the site. So I'm surprised by, I've been shared with some of the emails and information and so forth regarding some of the concerns. And I hope that this will help alleviate some of those concerns with me showing you the plans as they go through. So what you're looking at is the conceptual landscape plan for the project. It has interior paseos, as you can see, many places between buildings. It's a little bit small, but tucked away on the right side of your screen. The bottom right-hand corner is an area dedicated to an outdoor turf play area for small children. That's where a trellis shade structure would be provided with some outdoor barbecue areas and some tables, bike racks and so forth as well. The south site has much of the same. It's more of a central location on the south site. Right in the center of the project is where you see the turf green. There's sitting benches, there's landscaping, and again, it's a shade structure with a barbecue outdoor dining area for future residents. One of the things I want to point to as a result of my meetings with the homeowners on Manor Drive is, I'm going to back up for a second because you're going to see an arrow pop up on the west edge. On the west edge, the landscaping that's being placed or proposed along this edge is proposed to be, well, it is on this plan, is an evergreen type of tree, more of a vertical type of tree. And we've spaced them much tighter together than other places around the site. And that again is for the privacy and protection of privacy to the existing homeowners along Manor Drive. And that occurs both on the west edge where the arrow is shown, as well as here on the north edge of it. where we've taken that proposed landscape and condensed it down so it creates a much nicer, a denser screen, so to speak, for privacy. The homes that are proposed are 3-story in height. They're about 38 feet total height to the pitched roof. It's not a flat roof, but they are 3-story in height. So there would be bedrooms up on the 3rd level. There are no outdoor decks. There are no outdoor roof decks on the 3rd level, nor the roof, but there are decks from the primary living area off the living room at the 2nd story. So these trees, while they'll go in rather young, we would be willing to put them in at a 12-foot minimum height upon installation. That's something I discussed with the neighbors in my meetings with them earlier, or I guess early last month. The site plans for each of the sites, staff showed you a portion of these. This is the layout, the circulation that's proposed. I wanted to highlight there's 35 units on the south site, and there's, with parking, the total of, 38 units on the south site with total of 74 parking stalls. There's 35 units on the north portion of the site with the resultant 72 parking stalls. And again, each home has an enclosed 2-car garage. The 1-bedroom unit has a 1-car enclosed garage, but there are also, as noted in the staff report or on the plans, open parking stalls dedicated to guest parking and so forth. And I want to get to your question and respond to that later on about parking and CC&Rs and homeowners association and so forth. There are 4 different floor plans, and those 4 floor plans that are proposed are configured in 6 different buildings, so it's not a repetitive building over and over and over again. There is some unique characteristics to each of the buildings with articulation and design for each of them. Both of these lots individually and collectively exceed the minimum number of parking spaces that are required by your code within the city. And the floor plans range anywhere between 986 square feet up to 1,922 square feet for the 4-bedroom unit. Elevation-wise, I'm showing you a proposed material and a color board illustrating the proposed building types. This is shown building type A, with the colors that are intended to be cohesive, create breakup of mass, and complementary color palette with trim contrasts to add depth and so forth to the design. This slide and the next one this is a building type C. It's all cohesive. They're not individually unique, but they are all different types A through F of the buildings. They just have different unit configurations, making them each building labeled as they are. And this is building type F. The next slide is showing you basically a street scene from El Segundo Boulevard. The top photo is that looking west, the bottom photo is that looking east. And we've had our architect provide some perspectives of what that may look like in the future if the project ultimately goes forward as it's currently designed. And this is El Segundo Boulevard looking towards the west. So Grevillea Street, if I pronounce that properly, and I hope so, is there shown on the right side. That's the intersection of Grevillea and El Segundo Boulevard. And the fire station would be directly to the right side of the photo perspective location. This is the proposed project looking east along El Segundo Boulevard. The street to the left is that of Manor Drive on the left-hand side. Different perspective. This is the Grevillea Street frontage. And I always try to screen back landscaping or have the architect screen back landscaping in this so that I'm not hiding the building. It's not something that if I can show all the greenscape and so forth, then you won't see what's behind it. Same thing for, this is at the Manor, or looking towards the Manor intersection from El Segundo Boulevard. Again, I thank you for your time. I do ask for your approval of this project tonight, of the vested tentative tract map. It has the result of landing in a for sale project as opposed to apartments. If we were to go away, there's a potentially other buyers that would come in that would look to do apartments here, and they have the ability to do that by right. We're wanting to, and asking for your approval to move forward with the subdivision map so that we can develop and invest into the city and create pride of ownership in the city, like many of these homeowners here have me in their concerns, is a result of them having pride in where they live and having invested economic interest in it. We are trying to create more opportunity for more residents of Hawthorne to have that same ownership capabilities. We have read the conditions of approval, and we are accepting of them. And again, I ask for your affirmative approval tonight. Thank you.
You.
Thank you.
Planning.
Go ahead, Ruby.
Can I just get a
Questions?
clarification?
Yeah, questions of the applicant. Go for
I
it.
just want to, you said I'm not sure if this was an accident or not, or a mistake. You said 4 bedrooms? I thought it was only up to 3 bedrooms.
No, there's a 4-bedroom unit.
There's a
there,
4
yes.
bedrooms.
There's 1, 2, 3, and 4-bedroom units. It's lower there's less of the 4 bedrooms, but yes, there is a 4-bedroom unit. The 1,922 square foot is a 4-bedroom unit, yes.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that. Go ahead.
Gotcha. Two questions. Just as we mentioned, as far as these projects go, you have these drawings that you presented to us here today. In your past projects, have you seen much variation between what you present versus what ends up being constructed?
The answer to that is no, because what we do is we've based all of our research, all of our due diligence, and all of our designs based upon work that gets us to this point today. For us to go back and change would be a drastic move, and something that we, quite frankly, don't want to do. We want to build a project that we've designed and are wanting to stand behind and put before you tonight.
Gotcha. Appreciate it.
From breaking ground till end of project, is it going in phases? Like, how long do you think total it would be under construction?
So the phasing of the project is somewhat tough to describe because it is market dependent. But essentially, from the time we break ground to the time that we might start the first vertical construction of model homes that would be viewed for sales is probably 6 months of ground grading, infrastructure improvement, sewer, water, storm drain, and things of that nature. And then we would start the vertical construction for the model homes. And each home phase takes approximately 4 to 7 months to complete. And if sales go well, we would overlap in some areas, so that time frame could be condensed. But from initial construction beginning to build out would be probably approximately 2 years. The number of phases that we have placed in this is a model home phase, which is on the south site, and 4 construction phases.
Thank you.
Sorry, I did have one more question for you. I know you mentioned you were going to go into a bit more detail about the notification of the residents.
Yeah.
So I noticed you mentioned you said you started doing reach out to the residents in about February. So I was just wondering when did you meet with the city that you got the idea that, hey, this was something we're going to move forward with? I want to know how long it was between you spoke with the city and said, hey, this is something we're going to move forward with, before you actually reached out to the first set of residents.
Oh, we reached out to the residents prior to any formal application being submitted with the city.
Okay. And
if I can show you, so in January, basically I think it was like January 20th, 27th or so.
Is it for this year, or is it?
Yes, this year.
Okay, I just
This year,
wanted.
2024.
Okay.
Is what you're seeing on your screen. I know you can't read it, but I've seen them, many of them have them in their hands tonight. Is a introduction letter of Malia Homes introducing us, our project, and a basic layout. Much hasn't changed from January, where we initially started due diligence in a layout. It's gotten more detailed, if anything. So the initial letter had a description of the project, the number of homes that were being proposed, that they were for sale. Please reach out and contact me if you have any comments or concerns. The mailing list that I went out to is The sites are shown in yellow. All the properties that where you see the little red dots were the property owners where my letter went to. It doesn't have anything to do with the 300-foot radius mailing list that is required by law for public notice and public hearings. So as a result of my letter, I received phone calls from approximately 7 to 8 people. Only one person on 129th, his name was Richard Dragon, is what I took down. And I believe he lived almost directly center behind it on 129th. Most of the residents that I heard from were those located on Manor Drive. And so in what you see that's highlighted yellow, I'm giving you raw data. Right? This is right off my computer. So I had a meeting, we scheduled a meeting and met with the residents, and they organized their meeting for me, were kind enough to invite me into their house. Mr. Orcos baked cookies and goods, and we spent about 2 hours together reviewing the proposed plans. I know that they had some concerns. I hope that I've alleviated those with parking and with the landscape proposals to protect their views. But what you see highlighted in yellow are those that I sent this letter to that were also in attendance at that meeting.
Okay.
On June 11th.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I can provide to you in the future. This is a chronological, basically synopsis of all the contact that I had. That's there on the left, and the comment, the June 11th, 2024 on the right-hand side is basically a summary of the takeaway from that meeting that we had in June. And then there's the sign-in sheet that's shown at the very bottom where the neighbors were, in case we wanted to contact each other and so forth, and I did. I sent out a thank you letter following that. Then it gets into other stuff in case other questions. But I wanted to have this for reference
I appreciate it
as well.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cohens, you also had a question that you'd mentioned about the parking and
Yes.
the garages.
If we could encourage some type of parking agreement, and you also mentioned it was going to be an HOA.
Yes.
Is there going to be let's start with the parking agreement. Would you be up for that, to have a parking agreement within that association, just to make sure there's no conflict between homeowners and so forth? Because it can be a problem later.
Well, is what we have as a standard, and I would accept as a condition, is that the CC&Rs that would be created for this project, every homeowners association is basically bound and operated by covenants, conditions, and restrictions, CC&Rs. And that's part of the DRE process of creating townhomes and selling them individually. The CC&Rs, our standard CC&Rs, that's why I wanted to bring it up, our standard CC&Rs have requirements in them that stipulates that garages, if it's a 2-car garage, they're required to park 2 cars in it. That can't be blocked for storage or other things. If it's a 1-car garage, that 1-car space needs to be provided for a vehicle inside of it, not for boxes and storage and everything else. So, I mean, it is a standard, and I'm happy to, I stipulate that that our CC&Rs will require that garages be used for parking of vehicles and not for storage.
Okay. Well, my concern actually really is, besides the spaces inside the garage, I'm really concerned about the outside parking, because it's always a problem. If there can be in your CC&Rs, not the bylaws, not into the rules either, because rules can always be changed. But I'm actually talking about the actual CC&Rs itself. If you can maybe put something, I'm so sorry, oh my God.
After we told everybody.
It was actually on silent. I don't know what happened. So anyways, if it can be in the CC&Rs, it'll be greatly appreciated. Something to the fact of the parking spaces that are outside, they can maybe get maybe a 2 point, what's the calculation? Is it 1.75 or something like that? The calculation for parking spaces. Something basically saying every homeowner can get 2, well, it's going to be kind of difficult here because you said that some of the homes only have 1 one-car garage, correct?
The one-bedroom units
One-
have a
only-
one-car garage, correct?
Okay. If it can stipulate something to the fact of 2.7 or something like that, or 2.3 parking spaces belongs to each homeowner, and 1.3 or whatever to also the one. And the reason why I'm saying that is because if there is an overflow, every resident can actually get a parking space outside. And I'm actually using points, and I know it's like, why don't you just round it up? I get that. But it's better if you just do a point where everybody or every resident has a right to park outside.
They
An
do-
extra parking space if they need it after using the two-park garage. I'm just kind of recommending that, if that makes any sense.
Well, that's the purpose of the open parking stalls that are provided on each of the sites as it is.
Okay. Well, because I know
It's exceeding the city's standard requirements of parking by providing the open parking spaces outside of the garage.
correct, I know that.
So-
I do understand that. But I'm just saying it'll just help alleviate resident against resident, and then them putting rules out, and then it's going to create chaos within the community for parking. Trust me, I know that for a fact. When it goes with HOAs, if that makes any sense. Am I making sense here?
Yes, but I think you're deviating pretty far from a subdivision map.
Well, I know. I was just asking if I'm just giving a recommendation, an encouragement. You don't have to do that, but it just alleviates a lot of problems.
All of the CCNRs that are adopted throughout the city are reviewed by the city's attorney's office. And we always make sure that, the parking is addressed in there, and that, in this case, they have surplus parking per code definition. So the issues that you're raising may not even be happening here. Very rare that anybody builds a development with surplus parking. And I think in those other examples that you're familiar with, the reason there's disputes between the residents is because there's not as much parking as this one has.
Rick, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
This development sounds very similar to me, like 360 and Fusion that are in Hawthorne. Could you tell me the comparisons to this project versus those of kind of what, just so we can get an idea? Because I live basically on either side of those.
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with Fusion. 360 was developed with a mix of apartment flats that are condos, but they're like, multiple floors, and each unit is just on one floor, and townhomes. This one is all townhomes, so they're a little bit different in that regard. I cannot speak to the parking at this time because I would have to go back and review the old, but I don't recall them providing access parking for those projects. I think they were built to code.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, okay. Were there any other questions of the applicant? Oh, no,
yet.
no, yeah.
No, none from the applicant for me.
Not for the commissioners.
Well, there's only going to be one entrance on that other side, correct? You said there's only going to be one entrance on.
To the south side, which
Yes.
is Lot 2 of the map, yes, there's a single entrance off of El Segundo Boulevard. And that was by design.
Okay. Well, I know we haven't made a decision yet, but I do thank you
Yeah.
for actually, it seems like this project was really thought out. Instead of you building 94 homes, you actually considered to do 60-something, 68 homes,
Correct.
which is appreciated. And it's also for sale, not for rent, which is also a plus.
I would hold all your thank yous because we got a lot of.
Well, no. I'm
comments.
just saying that
I'm-
there are some pros here that he could have had it
I understand.
apartments. So
I
basically,
understand.
we want to put people also in homes as well.
No, I
That's something that we want to also
understand.
encourage.
I understand. I'm just saying we still have the public that's going to make their comments before you finish
Oh,
up with
yes.
that. Yeah.
Okay. But that is it for me.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Okay, so is there anyone else who wishes to address the commission on this issue? This would be everyone's time. Yeah, please make a line in the middle.
Hello, my name is Fred Ovadia. I own the property on 4555 West 129th Street, which is on the boundary of one of the southern part of the lot that's going to be from 15 lots to 2. So I have some concerns. One, I never received a letter that said by Milia Homes. So I never received that letter, and I'm on the boundary. I don't live at the property. I rent that property out, so maybe that's why I didn't get the letter, okay? I'm concerned since I'm at the boundary of the height. So, I mean, he's doing 3 stories high, so that's going to block sunshine that's coming in from the east. That's another concern. And then the traffic, you know, I didn't see any traffic light on El Segundo Boulevard. That's a very, you know, heavy used boulevard. There's a lot of traffic that's going on. And if people wants to make, for example, a turn from like a left turn going into the south side, that's you know, it's very dangerous. So that's another thing. And then the parking space, okay, you know, let's consider a holiday, okay, or a weekend. People coming in and visiting families in that neighborhood. There is not going to be enough parking spaces for them. So those are the 3 areas that I have concerns on. And it would have been very nice, you know, I mean, he said only one person on the southern side of the lot basically, you know, called him. Well, maybe because, you know, I didn't get the letter, and I'm sure other people didn't get the letter as well.
Understood.
Thank you.
Before you drop, what was your name one more time?
Fred Ovadia, Ovadia.
I got you. Thank you.
We have your email. Thank you, Fred. Thank you. We thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Yep, you have 3 minutes.
Hello.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Ismael Tavera. I live at 4490 West 129th Street. My first issue is this letter that we got. We literally got it last Monday, and it's postmarked for the 22nd. And on here, it says any comments had to be submitted on June 5th of 2023. Even if it was June 5th of 2024, this thing is postmarked on the 22nd to be here on this date, right? So that's my issue. I mean, you want me to trust a public study that's done when this doesn't even have the right and correct dates on it. It's kind of unacceptable. The second thing is they want to widen the street or the sidewalk on 129th. If you've ever been on 129th, that's a very narrow street. I've already lost 2 side mirrors on my truck because of people using 129th. When traffic is really bad on El Segundo Boulevard, everybody uses our street. And I'm telling you, they're going 60, 70 miles an hour, and I'm not joking. You can ask some of my neighbors, that's how fast people are going. So by narrowing the street, I don't even let my kids play in my front yard because it's so dangerous. I have to back into my driveway because I don't want to pull out because I've already gotten in 1 accident. Also, a construction site of this size, it's going to be ridiculous on the amount of traffic on El Segundo Boulevard. They're going to be using our street. And trust me, I'm a reasonable person. I bought my house 13 years ago. I used to be able to look out my kitchen window and see the mountains. Now all I see is the neon lights of a Courtyard Marriott, which I'm okay with, right? We need more buildings in this city. But I've tried calling somebody to talk to this about this letter, and I never got a call back. I left a message. So I just think a project of this size in a residential area such as ours street, it's just going to be a nightmare. It's going to be a nightmare for 2 years for us with noise of construction, everything that's going on with traffic. It's going to be a mess. And I know there's a parking lot at the end of our block, but if you've ever been to that parking lot, my kids call it Zombie Land because of all the transients and everybody that's walking around. That parking lot's not safe at all. There's an abandoned building at the end of our property or at the end of our block where like the police department has had to go in there and clear out transients. I think last week there was a transient that died in that building. So with you bringing in that many more people into our neighborhood, it's going to be a nightmare. They're saying there are going to be 4-bedroom apartments or condos there with a two-car garage. Where are those other 2 cars going to be if it's 4 adults living in that building? They're going to have to park in our neighborhood. We already have a shortage of parking, so that parking is going to be a major issue because they're not going to be able to park on El Segundo Boulevard because that's a huge thoroughfare, right? They're going to have to go into our neighborhood. So I just want you to realize that a building of this size is going to just destroy our neighborhood, okay?
I'm sorry, what was your name?
Ismael Tavera.
Ismail.
Tavera, Tavera.
Do you mind, do you mind
Sure.
handing me that?
You can have this copy. I took
I
pictures.
appreciate it.
This, or, yeah, sure.
Maria, can you say, yeah, Maria, can you grab it? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
1 second.
Hi,
Yeah, you got 3.
my name is Elizabeth Wilson. I live at 4590 West 129th Street. So on this map, mine is the very last property to the left on the south side. And my neighbor came as well. I am not as diligent about knowing what's going on in the neighborhood, but my other neighbors are. And so I decided to come and I made notes. I'm excited that it's going to be a for sale property. The 2 years of construction is going to be tough. I think everybody's complained about the parking. My concern is something that had been said about something happening on 129th Street. My understanding was there was going to be a barrier wall built on the backside of the south side parking, and then you mentioned something about the street being, or the sidewalk, so that's on the inside, is that correct?
We'll just
Oh,
address
Oh,
that.
sorry,
We'll address it
sorry.
again. Yeah.
Is it on the inside? Because I'm confused, because the street on that portion is high, is elevated on
Yeah,
129.
we'll clarify all of that at the end of the hearing.
Okay, sorry, that was my primary question, is that I was very confused between what I understood from planning and what was said about what's happening on the 129th side. Thank you.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Hello, I'm Judy Trujillo. I reside at 4500 West 129th Street. I've been a resident for about 33 years, and I'm very concerned about the notification that was sent out to the public, at least to the residents that were near. I received from my neighbor, who resides right next door to the nursery, information about the Melia Home Project just about 2 weeks ago. Only because we were talking and sharing information. But I reside directly across the street from her on 129th, and I never received any information regarding this project at all. So I understand that they want to do the proximity close to the area, but this impacts all of the neighbors on 129th Street. So I'm concerned about that. And then I had a couple other things. Incorrect information, as was stated by the resident at 4490, was sent to the residents with a date. I did call and I commented about it to the phone number that was listed. And I was really disappointed that we have a June 5th when we didn't receive the information until after the 21st of this month, or I mean of last month for this. That's a problem. That's incomplete information. And I did a couple days later receive a corrected copy, but this actually doesn't give us much time to review any of the reports or anything that we can do, especially when we don't know what is going on in our neighborhood. I never received any information with regard to this. And I hate, the other thing was I kind of took a look at some of the information, and I'm not real clear about all of it, but when it talks about that the study was done from 2021, or we have a time period of 2021 to 2029, I'm assuming those are the years, and That's a 9-year period, 8-year period that we have to take a look at. And traffic already on El Segundo Boulevard, if any of you travel it during, from after 3 o'clock or after the high school gets out, traffic is absolutely horrible. So 129th Street going east to Hawthorne Boulevard, traffic is horrendous. I mean, it's crazy. And as the neighbor had stated, they drive really fast, and so you can't, I mean, my son has left, but anyway, it just gets to be a real problem. And
Thank
it
you.
needs to be considered, and not notifying everybody
we do
makes
have
it
to
a problem.
Sorry, we do have to keep everyone at 3 minutes. We
I know,
appreciate you.
sorry. Thank you.
Just before the next person starts, I wasn't looking behind me. Is the counter, the timer, are you running the timer?
I'm running
Okay, then I'm sorry for everybody. I keep looking down at my phone because I think I'm doing the timer myself. Never mind.
Okay, start your timer. I talk as
Yeah.
fast as I can. My name is Hideki Dick Obayashi. I used to have a Crystal Palace Billiards opposite the Cockatoo Inn. I have a house in the middle of Manor Drive on the hillside, on the west side of the street. I'm very opposed to this project because Manor Drive is very narrow. All the traffic. I don't see explicitly where this driveway is. Looks like it's on the corners. I'm afraid that it's not big enough. There are cars parked on both sides of Manor Drive. I just don't see the feasibility of this place at all as currently configured. I'm especially worried about Manor Drive and my house and the traffic coming in and out of this place. The 2-year construction site bothers me also. I live in Gardena. We almost successfully nixed the Cocoon House. Now they got a 7-story building going up, and we've got our whole neighborhood is dead against that. There's just too much traffic. There's just too many buildings. It's not feasible at all, in my opinion, and I would be against it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is David Lins. I'm a resident at 129th Street, 4530 129th Street. I just wanted to share some of my concerns. So first of all, just to echo what was said before, that this mailing was confusing. It created a deadline of 2023. Along with that, I just wanted to ask the committee, like, is this actually the last time to submit public comments? Did I hear that correctly?
We'll address at the end. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I would say is that, like, if it's possible, if this is not the last time to submit public comments, I would like for this request that we're able to submit written comments going forward, to basically extend the deadline for written comments, given that this mailing was confusing. I'd also like to say that it sounds like that there was some outreach from Melia Homes, but we did not receive the mailing. And in any event, one representative, one person from 129th giving feedback is probably not sufficient for the developer to, I just don't think that's enough of a sample size. I'd like to also say that, I want to echo some of the concerns about traffic and the safety of 129th Street. People do speed regularly. They use it as a substitute east-west conduit in place of El Segundo. I can only imagine that if El Segundo has more traffic, that there'll be more true in the future. You should consider adding speed bumps. The intersection of 129th Ramona Avenue is particularly dangerous because of a lack of sight lines, and there's also only a 2-way stop. You should consider putting in a 4-way stop at that intersection and putting additional speed bumps on the Ramona Avenue. I have some additional notes here. Just a question about the extended construction phase. Can the city assure existing residents that portions of the current parking area along 129th Street won't be disrupted for an extended period of time? If it's expected that that's going to be the case, what provisions will the city or the developer provide so that we are not parking blocks away? Parking is already an issue safety is already an issue. I should also point out that that street, that sidewalk, is used by dozens of high school students, and people use that to actually walk. So there are definitely safety considerations. And lastly, I want to echo the concerns about overflow from this development. Like, we have difficulty parking already. I'd like to know if there's going to be permit parking or something like that considered. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. No problem.
This is on. Hi, I'm Kim Lenz. You just met my husband.
One second so I can reset.
Okay, I'm good?
There you go.
Okay. Kim Lenz, you just met my husband. We're at 4530 West 129th. We are right across the street from this project, and I'm sorry that I'm redundant. I sit on a dais often, and I know how boring it can get when you hear the same thing over and over again, but I also know that sometimes hearing it over and over again actually makes an impact. So parking is an issue on 129th already, with only 60 spots for 68 units. While that may be better than code, I can tell you right now, we don't have 2.3 spots per resident on 129th right now. I would love that. I often get home late from work and have to park blocks away. So when holidays happen, when people have guests over, where do you think that parking's going? It's going on 129th, where there's already a pretty significant parking issue, and that lot at the end doesn't allow for overnight parking. So something will have to be done with this development going in to take care of the current residents who've chosen to live here. We've been living here for 14 years. So we would just ask that you would take care of us as well as your new residents. Permit parking certainly would be an answer on 129th. Certainly narrowing the street is a concern. When I go to my car in the morning, people come screaming through at 40, 50 miles per hour. And if there's no stoplight coming out of that new development, what they're going to do is they're going to turn right on El Segundo, turn right on Hawthorne, turn right on 129th, and just join the rest of the barrage of cars that we get in the morning. I, too, have had damage done to my car. I think everybody who lives on that street, who's had to park on the street, has. So I would just say, like, traffic, I don't know if there's been a traffic study done. I would certainly appreciate knowing where that is, because it certainly should. I'm guessing it did, because I think it's required. I also would like to know where the CEQA study is and the environmental study was done. I would like to know where those are posted so that we can make sure that we as residents can take a look at that, because you are replacing green space with hardscape. And I just want to be aware of what the impact of that is. Let's see, landscaping. So I know there's a retaining wall going up on 129th Street. I would also just ask that you consider landscaping in that area so we're not looking at an ugly wall from our view. And then also, I do want you to understand that, similar to what the gentleman shared before, we used to have a view of the mountains. That's one of the reasons we bought our house. We can actually see the Hollywood sign from our house, and now we'll be looking in someone's bedroom or apparently onto their porch. So what I would ask the Planning Commission to consider is, you have residents who already live here, and we're just asking for the same thoughtfulness and care that you're thinking of as you think about putting new residents in, and making sure that we are also taken care of, because we've been here for a long time and we would love to stay. But that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ross Adachi. I represent Hawthorne Nursery. I'm representing them in terms of the association and dealing with Melia Homes. When I talked to the family about selling the property, I told them that with the housing overlay, they could go up to 94 units and have apartments, but they said, no, they don't want to do that to the community. They want to keep it down, and Melia came up with a project of 68 townhomes. I hear a lot of the concerns that people have. I'm also a developer. I've heard all of these concerns before in all of the projects. These are issues to raise with the building department. I understand there's a lot of people with concerns on 129th Street. They're talking about the block wall. They want it to be landscaped. They want speed bumps. They're talking about people speeding. So we understand all that. I was talking to the other gentleman back there who has a house on Manor. He was worried about access on Manor Drive, and I said, talk to the building department. I told him that this hearing is to reduce the number of lots from 15 to 2 so they could move forward. If we had sold to an apartment developer, this hearing would not be happening, and they would just be going ahead and building. So, thank you.
Hello.
1 second. Just make sure you get your time set. Gotcha. All good.
Good evening. My name is Tony Tran, and I'm the homeowner of 12704 Manor Drive, which is adjacent to right to the north of the development. So I did attend the recent meeting with the other residents and Mr. Brown, and I appreciate that. I appreciate seeing the screen of trees on the west and north side of the development to preserve and enhance the privacy. So just want to make sure that, if we can make that happen, that would be great. And, the larger trees, the better. So, because I'm right there on the north of the property. And my other concern is with increased traffic, of course, and street parking on Manor Drive that could happen from the project. And so if this could be addressed, I would appreciate it going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. All good?
Hello, my name is Philip Pearson. I've been a resident of Hawthorne since 1993. One thing, I'm looking at this project, and I'm looking at how you're putting a big puzzle in a small peg, and it seems like it's going to be a lot more traffic. I mean, you cannot eliminate that. We have children riding bikes. It's more traffic. I've seen children get hit. So that's a big concern. I mean, I know you put this up, investors put this up, oh, this is a nice area, to make more revenue. But there's safety concerns that are not being looked at. That's one. Consideration of already property tax residents who pay tax is not being considered. This is a joke how you've given this flyer out. It's not enough time. There's no respect to the current residents. And that's a problem I have, There have been several projects that supposedly have been happening. RFK, that used to be a hospital, there was supposed to be a project there. That hasn't come to fruition. That's a big lot right over there, okay? There's the other one over there S&W used to have. There was supposed to be apartment buildings put up over there. That hasn't came. So it seems like, and those are much bigger lots. It seems like you're putting over here 129th. It's a smaller area compared to consider those other areas. So that's why this is my concern. Why are you putting in this? It looks like a big area, but once you start putting buildings on it, it shrinks. I'm finished. And my concerns again, like you said, you got these memos at the last minute. They were given out at the last minute. There was no early consideration of giving them out. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Hi there. I submitted my letter through the email. I'm sure you guys have read it. My name's Kevin Wong. I live at 12647 Manor Drive.
What was the last name?
Wong, W-O-N-G. Yeah, I sent a pretty long email or a letter. I just wanted to voice, just for everyone in the public as well, that I think everyone has the same concerns. It's privacy, it's street parking, it's traffic. I get that there are restrictions in place for good reasons, but I'd like the city or even Malia Homes to reconsider a driveway out onto Manor and why it wouldn't go into Grevillea, or even just eliminate a driveway altogether, because the other property on the south side has only one driveway, entrance and exit. I just think it would heavily reduce the amount of traffic that Manor Drive would see.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Richard Dragon, 129th Street. If I was, hi Brad, I'd always send a flyer with a mistake on it so people have something to complain about. It's really a non-issue to me. I haven't heard if there's going to be a stairway to 129th Street.
All the questions, if you address here, we'll make sure that
Okay.
something.
And I'm not dead set against the project. I've worried about it for years, but it's an eventuality that I knew was coming. I'd like to know what we could do to mitigate dust while they're under construction. And hopefully it will raise the property values by not being apartments. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello. My name is Esther Avadia. My husband came ahead and he just wanted me to add more things. We own the property of 4555 West 129th Street. We purchased that house basically because on one side was the nursery. We have been there for, like I'd say, 30 years, and we've been using it at rental. It was basically an income for our kids. What I'm seeing now is that I don't know if they're concerned about the water. We've had problems with our sump in our rental. We've had it replaced twice already. Are they taking that in consideration because of the height level? As well as the parking. I've always never been able to find easy parking, and I would always block my driveway when I come to talk to the tenants. So that is an issue for me. And I come in the middle of the day. I don't even come at night when people are at home. And walking on that sidewalk, which is narrow at certain areas where the poles for electricity, it is a little hazardous. So widening it, I don't know if it'll make a difference, but putting that block wall, but at the different heights, are they going to have the 3 floors? I mean, the apartments that have 3 floors on the height of 129th, or are they going to base it down below? And are they going to take care of the water drainage so that it doesn't flood and cause problems? The other thing is the noise. There's going to be 2 years that my tenants are going to have to suffer through, and the dust and the noise. I hope that you're thinking of accommodating living standards and how the noise will impact everybody. I think it's great that it's going to be for sale, and I'm aware that our hands are tied because of what California state legislature had passed regarding housing. So I think this is the best of worst scenarios, and I can accommodate that, but I think this area has some unique features that needed to be taken care of. In fact, my neighbor on the other side, I've gone in when I've taken, while I was taking care of my sump myself, having people come in and change the cement and everything, there's just a little bit overflowing and it's flooding. You have to understand, the 129th is like the houses, the owner's unit is 3 levels with the one down below being a car garage. So that's the height. But on the street, it's 2 floors, okay? And to me, that's a big hazard for the coming department units. Thank you so much. I see I'm running late.
Thank you.
I just want to clarify something with her, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Mrs.
Ovadia.
Ovadia?
Yes.
You said water or flooding. Where is
When
the
it
flooding?
rains, you have to understand.
Okay.
129th is houses on the street. You only see 2 floors. 2 floors only. But underneath, we don't have basements normally in California, but there is a basement, and that basement is a garage. So when you come in the driveway, you go down the driveway, it goes steep down, and you turn to park. And that part is, I would call it a basement, because I'm from New England. I've been here 44 years, but I'm still New England. So anyhow, that to me is a basement. But the tenants in the back, only 1 floor, and they're on that ground floor that's on El Segundo. So you have to see it's a gradient.
I appreciate. I'm sorry, we got.
Thank you.
Do you understand what I'm talking about?
Yes.
And I
Yes.
can see that there will be, if it's not taken into consideration, those people who buy homes will be unhappy.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Sean Carroll. I'm at 4548 West 129th Street. Been there 60 plus years. My born and raised here in Hawthorne, the city of good neighbors. So, and my family, my father played for the LA Angels and the old Pacific Coast Leagues, and my family's been here from the 30s. So, when I bought that house, I paid extra for the view, quite a large sum. You see these pictures, they're not 2 bedrooms or 2 stories, they're 3 stories, 40-foot base, and then the ceiling. It's like standing next to a wall when they do that. When they add parking, they don't allow access to out. If you saw the drawing, they don't allow access out to 129th for automobiles, but they allow entrance and exit by passengers or pedestrians. So you can park your car on 129, then walk in the back gate. But if you don't get on when you're coming down El Segundo, you don't get in, you just whip around the corner, find a place to park. But I walked over here. I didn't drive it because there's no parking. When I went back, I couldn't get a parking spot. So people drive from, they tried to mitigate this about 10 years ago. They put speed bumps on top of the hill at 129th because people cut down when they put in SpaceX. More traffic started coming. So they shoot down 129th Street to get to Hawthorne Boulevard, turn right on Hawthorne Boulevard, or they come down 130th, cut across, and they cut down Hawthorne Boulevard. When you do the same thing with El Segundo, they're not going to be able to, they won't be able to park, so they'll whip around the street, park on 129th, taking people's parking space. So I think that's about it.
Thank you.
All right. And then, the thing is, in the flyer I just saw it today, they said, you have to speak your mind today. If you have problems, bring it up today. But people just get that note today. They can't. They haven't figured it out. Today's the beginning of a long weekend. Some of these people have already left town, gone to the beach. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else?
Yep, thanks, sir.
Here we go.
Thank you. Or be the last one.
Okay.
I'm the resident on the south side on El Segundo Boulevard, 4556 West El Segundo. My name is Jesus Ortega. I've been living in Hawthorne for 25 years on that property. And the notice that I have it last week, Friday, and I have another one Monday. It's not enough time for people like myself that it works to respond and to say anything, except I hope you consider it extended. And I hope it be another opportunity for the community to speak, because many people it doesn't get even the notice. It's the first time I have it in my hands. I do not hear from previous months or previous information, nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the Planning Commission on this issue? I cannot allow that. Now, there were quite a number of
Yeah, there's quite a
things
number of issues that
that need to be addressed. That
Yeah.
I know the applicant is allowed to respond
do a
to some of
rebuttal.
those.
Yes.
So,
Before that, though, I would like to ask for permission to address some of the issues that are concerning the city, as opposed to the applicant. First is the notice. The notice went out in a timely fashion pursuant to the law, which says 10 days before the hearing. I'm sorry that some of you did receive it late. That's with the Postal Service, unfortunately, not with the city. We sent everything out 10 days prior. We did then subsequently find that one part of the notice, which says submit your comments by, had a date from a previous notice, which was June 5th, 2023. However, the meeting date, time, and location were correct. And furthermore, the meeting date and time and location were correct in the newspaper notification. So we did legally meet our requirement, but as a courtesy, we did send a revised notice to all the same people stating that the period to make comments was not June 5th, but it's actually today. The reason it's set for today is because this is the hearing. And it wouldn't do anybody any good to have comments come after the hearing, okay? But 10 days is the standard. That's standard throughout the state. There may be some jurisdictions that give more, but we, by our municipal code, give a 10-day notice. And it's not 10 days from the day you receive it, but from 10 days from when we mail it, okay? With regard to the sidewalk on 129th Street, it is being widened, but the curb is not being moved. So the street will not be narrowed, okay? There's a narrow sidewalk there now and some landscaping or dirt or whatever. That'll all be made into sidewalk. So it'll be a 7-foot sidewalk with tree wells every 50 feet with a tree planted in it by the applicant. So I want to be clear on that. It will have no impact on the width of the actual driving area on 129th Street. With regard to construction traffic and noise, well, let's deal with noise. Noise is controlled by the municipal code. There are timelines in which construction can take place every single day. It's a little bit more restrictive on the weekends, I believe. But we will be watching for that. If they start construction prior to, was it 7, I think? Or is it 8? I forgot. 7. They will receive a notice of violation, but I don't expect that to be the case. And likewise, construction has to stop at, is it 6 or something? I forgot when. But anyway, there's a time that has to stop. So the nighttime, at least, there will be no construction permitted. And we will be, I mean, we're very close, so we'll know if they're violating that. And code enforcement will be keeping an eye on it, as we do for every construction project in the city. As for the issue of notification not going to all of the neighbors, again, this goes back to the municipal code. The requirement for code is neighbors within 300 feet. Now, that doesn't include everybody on 129th, but you know, there's no provision that we have to provide notice to everybody on 129th. The requirement is neighbors within 300 feet. If even a small portion of your property is within 300 feet of this property, a notice would have been mailed to you. Anybody outside of that doesn't get a notice. But that's why we advertise in the newspaper, and I don't know, that's just pursuant to the municipal code and per state law. As for the driveway on Manor Drive, I'll let the applicant address why not Gravilla, but I will say that the second driveway is required on the northern portion for fire trucks to be able to get into the property and get out. The southern one is wider, so they're able to do a complete circle or square. So they can use one driveway. That doesn't apply to the northern part, and that's why there's a second driveway there. A lot of the comments deal with development standards, such as parking. I'd like to point out again that that is outside of this scope of this hearing. All of those standards are contained in the municipal code, and they're objective, meaning that the city uses no judgment. It's either yes or no, complies or doesn't comply. That's pursuant to state law. As one of the applicants, or one of the residents had said, you know, our hands are somewhat tied by state law here. So rest assured, though, there are standards, and they will be applied and upheld. So all the issues related to landscaping, parking, height, all of that stuff is covered, and they know the rules, we know the rules, and they're free to build up to those rules, but not beyond. As mentioned, RFK, there is an application already on, I don't remember who made that request, but there is an application for that site. It's tied up in the environmental review right now. It is slated to happen, but it's a long process. And there are plenty of other sites in the city where housing is also being proposed and being studied currently. Let's see if there's anything. Construction dust goes with time. Construction dust is controlled by the AQMD, and the city does enforce dust control. So if there's any incident of construction dust, please notify the city, because that has to stop. And the applicant is well aware of this as part of the construction, process. Water issues, I think you're talking about drainage. Again, there are plenty of regulations that apply to water. All of the water that falls onto this property does not leave the property. It stays on the property. That's pursuant to law. And they're going to have the property graded, which means they're going to, move the dirt around a little bit to make it drain properly. That's going to be carefully monitored by the city, and it'll have to be approved. That's standard. That's for every project. So I don't think that flooding is going to be much of an issue here. And the applicant may want to expand on that a little bit. The question about where the bottom of the units adjacent to 129, they'll be on the low part. They will not be 3 stories above 129th Street. There'll be a floor and a half below 129th and then a floor and a half above. I think that covers all the city issues. Now, if the applicant would like to address the issues that are more specific to the project. Oh, I'm sorry, there was one other question related to CEQA. The CEQA studies, I think that person actually left, but hopefully they're watching on TV. The CEQA studies were, there's actually one. It was done when in 2022 when the overlay was first adopted. That's available from the city. We can email it to you, or you can come in and look at it. I'm not sure if it's posted online right now, but we'll accommodate anyone that needs to see it. The other CEQA that we're addressing here is called a categorical exemption for infill development. That's a state carve-out that exempts this project from requiring EIR or a negative declaration or anything more significant. This is a qualified site for infill development. So we're covered on 2 bases. If you're not satisfied with the one, we've got the other. But usually you only need one. Okay?
Just a...
Greg, there's one more question. Yeah, it was just, someone asked of the environmental study if they wanted to read it.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Okay, sorry, just wanted to make
It's
sure.
available from the planning department. You can reach out to any of our email addresses on the city's website. Email us, we'll send it to you.
And I did want to, just to add back, I know I saw an email from Nathan earlier. Apparently that CEQA file is pretty big, so it's hard to email. So you guys are not, or apparently.
Yeah, we'll put it onto a download site then, if that's the case.
Gotcha.
It's definitely a public document, and anybody can look at it.
Okay. I can't, we actually can't take comments from the crowd. That's why we have I understand. That's why we have a public comment, but I appreciate you. Thank you. The applicant, would you like to respond to some?
Sure, thank you. And I do thank all the residents for coming out and expressing their concerns, and I hope by some of those responses that I'll be providing to you show that we, in our design of the ultimate project that is following the map process that we're here for tonight, that because of our history and my history, that we've tried to address those as what I like to call as project design features. And that is with regards to, for instance, the elevation of the buildings from 129th Street. We initially, I've got portions of our team that are here. I was like, we want to, because those houses are elevated to some degree, I want to drop the grade. So that's why we're dropping the site grade at 129th below 129th to help alleviate a 3-story structure. I believe, because we don't build homes that are 60 feet tall, but I believe the housing overlay has an allowance of up to 60 feet for building height. We're at 38. We're 3 stories. So we initially, and in our proposed designs that are part of the tentative track map, are lowering the elevation of the site 6 to 8 feet below the elevation of 129th Street for that reason. As Mr. McLean mentioned, there will only be portion of the house of the proposed townhomes that would be visible from beyond and above at 129th. Mr. McLean touched on the sidewalk. The sidewalk on 129th is very narrow. It is dirt. There are utility poles and so forth with it. And that's why the city public works director is wanting that sidewalk to be 7 feet wide. That current is the width of the current parkway, whether it be sidewalk and dirt. It's going to be all sidewalk with some trees planted along the sidewalk at the top of the project, if it is approved. Regards to the parking that we've heard, we design what we have to have for our residents, future residents, to be happy and have a place to park. It has to be marketable. It's something that they look at when they come to buy into a project, that they have ample parking. This project, when built, would probably have more parking spaces than most projects that you have in the city. And it is compliant with the code. With regards to the retaining wall at 129th, the retaining wall is necessary so that we can drop the grade and retain the street at 129th as it is today. On top of that retaining wall would be an open rail fence. It's not going to be a solid 12-foot retaining wall. It would be a 5 to 6 foot tall retaining wall with open rail fencing that would have some landscaping growing up both in front and interior to the wall visible from 129th. The Manor driveway opening that Mr. Wong and the neighbors that I met with had mentioned, we looked at trying to redirect that opening and still maintain the required fire access to another, to Gravalia. It wasn't possible because of the configuration and shape of that northern parcel that you see on the map. There's a notch that goes, and I'm going to mention a name, that goes to in the property of the current nursery that reaches towards Tony's house, the neighbor to the direct north of the site, that allows for the units, the townhomes, to be built on that portion of it and still maintain the circulation necessary for fire and for trash service, but more importantly, fire. The south site with the loop street in it has enough room to create the loop system, so it just has the one driveway in and out. There are no stairs proposed to 129th, so I think that the parking on 129th is not of convenience for the residents, future residents of this proposed project, to park on 129th and walk all the way around the block to come around. And that was by design, to not provide pedestrian link up to 129th, because they have ample ADA and pedestrian link directly down to El Segundo Boulevard, and they can get to Hawthorne Boulevard or Inglewood or the high school or whatever out on El Segundo Boulevard. The letter, I think there may be some confusion regarding the city's public notice letter versus my letter that I sent out. My letter was only sent to those neighbors that are directly adjacent to it. It goes out in a standard envelope that says Malia Homes on it. It maybe looks like any other piece of junk mail that we all get in our mail, and it may be tossed out and thrown away. I count 1, 2, 3, 4 individuals who spoke tonight saying they didn't receive that letter, that were on the mailing list that I mailed out. So whether or not they saw it, it's been several months, whether they tossed it, looked at it, whatever it may be. But those that are directly adjacent did receive some correspondence from me asking for their input and to make contact with me and to introduce myself to them. Regarding the drainage and or stormwater and or infiltration, regarding the stormwater that hits the site, a certain amount of water from a storm event is required to be retained on site, as Mr. McLean mentioned. In this particular instance, we're doing both detention on the site in underground storage pipes to retain that water volume, and then it would go into what we call a dry well, which is basically a chamber that goes down about 35 to 40 feet into the earth, and the stormwater would go into that and infiltrate back into the ground and hopefully recharge our groundwater basins to some degree. Heavier storms and so forth, the codes require a certain amount of water be retained. In a storm that continues on and on and on, in a 100-year storm, all that storm drain water is contained and ultimately would run out to El Segundo Boulevard, just like the property does today. Is there anything that I missed that we would like to go back on?
Yeah. Nope, that's all.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Any
Appreciate it.
questions of the commission before I sit down?
Nothing else for the applicant. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. McLean, Are there any documents to place into the administrative record?
Yes, several. Several emails were received. They were all provided to you, both by email and also put on the dais.
Sure, okay. To my fellow commissioners, do we have any final comments on this item or questions for staff? I just want to make sure that we are clear. When it comes to questions for staff on this particular thing, the item that we are talking about is the subdivision of the lots. So let's make sure that we're keeping our comments to that particular part of this conversation, because the rest of it we can't give directives about. So any questions?
No questions for staff.
No questions.
On here, okay. I will now formally close the public hearing on these items. And do we have a motion?
I think I have some comments before a motion.
Here we go.
I have some comments too.
There we go.
First, for all the people in the room, thank you so much for coming. Community participation and having your voice be heard is a crucial part of what we take pride in being up here. I think there are days like this that it's frustrating to the folks that are sitting up here of the ability and the power that we have in this position and what we're able to vote on and what we aren't able to vote on. And today definitely is one of those days. What is put before us is taking a 15-lot parcel into a 2-lot parcel. I wish we were voting on all the other things that were brought up here today, because as a resident of Hawthorne, I feel what you are feeling. As I mentioned earlier in this session, I live very close to 360, and when that was built, that is 600 units. So there's a part of me that was like, oh my gosh, I wish it was only 68, but that doesn't take away from what you are feeling, and please do not think I am taking anything away from what you are feeling because of this. If anyone would like to talk to me about that, it didn't end up being even a fraction of what we thought it was going to be. It's worked out very well for us. And so if anyone wants to speak to me about my experience with that offline, I'm more than happy to do that. But it wasn't as catastrophic as in the beginning we thought it was. In all honesty, it wasn't catastrophic at all. But again, that was my experience. That is not your experience, and I'm not trying to take anything away from that. So I just wanted to say thank you for coming, expressing it, and sharing with you that I wish it was something else we were voting on today versus what it was, because as it is our job to just vote and keep the city accountable for what the laws they put into place. The city council makes the laws. So again, there are meetings every 2 weeks for that, where you can once again get on that agenda and come talk to them about this and what it is for the next phase of the building if this goes through tonight. So please know that that is something, it's every other Tuesday, and you can get time in front of the city council, because that is who put this on our docket this evening. So with that, again, just thank you. Thank you to Mr. Brown for coming and sharing everything that you are doing. I do say that I am happy as a resident of Hawthorne that these are for sale homes and more home ownership, because with that gets people in activism and volunteerism and bringing something to this community, just being temporary residents, coming in, taking over a space and leaving. It's pride of ownership, it's pride of community, it's pride of being part of something. And you never know, maybe someone, if we get lucky, that is sitting in this development will be up here and, being part of a bigger part of our community to make it better for all of us. So again, easy for me to say up here, we're not dealing with the situation, but again, thank you again for coming, and no further comments.
I'm just going to piggyback on what she said. The reason why we're here and what our obligation is. I know a lot of you have concerns about certain things and so forth. I do understand that. The site development for the residential purposes allowed here is by right. So I know you guys have issues with building and so forth, how things are going to pan out, so forth, constructions and whatever, what have you. That's going to be a different department that takes care of that. Today, we're just here for the to combine or make 2 lots. So I just want to make sure that we are clear on that. I've seen different projects that come to the planning department. I do have to say from what I see, and hopefully it is what we're seeing today, I do appreciate the idea that instead of putting 94 units, it is 68 homes, not apartments. So at least it coming to the city, someone has or can take advantage of the fact that they can actually be a homeowner. So that is something that is a major pro with this project. Also, I do appreciate the fact that Malia Homes saw that there were some issues with sidewalks and so forth. He could have actually had a 5-foot setback on sidewalks. They decided to do 7. That's also a pro. Also widening that street as well, or making that extra sidewalk. I mean, it's just, that is greatly appreciated if that's what they're gonna do. Also the trees, the vegetation, instead of putting smaller trees, if they put 12-foot trees, that's also was just a consideration for them to maybe consider, or at least we encourage that. So we'll see where they go with that. But that is it for me. And again, thank you guys. We do appreciate you guys coming to the planning department and expressing your concerns. I will continue to ask anybody who ever has concerns to please come up. Let us hear you. And we do appreciate you a lot for doing that. It just gives us a different perspective and outlook and so forth. And you guys are our eyes sometimes. We can't see certain things. We can at least hear you, and then we can see where we go from there. So that's it.
Sure. I did say, most importantly, thank you to everyone who came out here to speak today, particularly to voice your opinion about what's going on in your community and your neighborhood. So it is monumentally important for all of us to come in and do this. I do, again, I think something Commissioner Houston said that it is really important for us to hear is that a lot of the stuff, when it comes from this point, is important for us to speak at our city council meeting, is for us to talk about how we want to direct our city. I think we mentioned this overlay was done part of our general plan. Our general plan was done a while ago, and this is why it's important for us to be at every single one of these meetings, because 2 years ago when this was done, it was just a thing we did. Now it's 2 years later and it impacts us. So it's the reason why we come and we stay up on these things when they're happening. It's a reason why every time there's legislation that comes up, we read it thoroughly and we make sure we understand what's happening, because that will prevent a lot of us from being confused as we go forward in this. Just share the same sentiments. Yes, some of these things are disappointing when it comes to the way that, that residents feel about them in the time. I do hope that everyone has the same experience as Commissioner Houston, where it's not that bad. I really do hope that it comes out in a great way. But personally, as we sit here, we've seen a few projects that's come past that were only done for rentals. We fought as hard as we could to try to get things that were not done for rentals, and there's another space where we're hands tied. So the fact that this time we're actually able to get some home ownership out of this, I think is a great piece here. That's a big win that we should take away from. And with that, I'm close there, and I'll entertain a motion.
Before we have a motion, there is one missing piece of information that I would like to explain. And that is, given the constraints that we're under by state law, you're probably wondering, why are we having a hearing? And the reason for that is that there's a subdivision happening here. And subdivisions are not all going to occur inside of the housing overlay. And other subdivisions that come forward in the city, all of these concerns and all of these issues that you've raised would be very relevant. So that's why subdivisions require a public hearing, even in a case such as this, when our hands are completely tied. I just wanted to make that clear. We're not doing this just for the fun of it, but there's a reason behind it. That's all.
Gotcha. Well, with that, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I second.
Okay. Vice Chairperson Cohens?
Yes.
Commissioner Houston?
Yes.
And Chairperson Richard?
Yes.
Okay, this subdivision map is approved.
Okay. Administrative items, no items. Items to be placed on future agendas. Or did I skip something?
No, we do have, at this time, the design review that you continued previously was originally intended to be on the July 17th meeting. I think it's not going to make that meeting. So we have nothing concrete planned for that July 17th meeting, but that might change in the next 2 weeks.
Okay, moving on along. We got commissioner reports, so we're going to start here with Commissioner Houston. We'll just roll around. Nothing?
Planning, sorry, I keep on turning this off and on. Planning Commission, thank you for doing your great work. Appreciate it. Thank you for giving us all this information that we need in order to make our decisions. So just wanted to say that, but that's it.
Okay, well.
Happy 4th of July, everybody.
There we go. That was my very brief note. Thank you all for being here right ahead of your long weekend. I hope you all, this guy. Okay, well, not a long weekend for all this staff. We'll go with that. So I appreciate you guys for spending here, taking some of your time here with us today. Again, appreciate the residents. I know everyone's heading out here. We appreciate you guys for coming out and letting us know how you feel about these things. And with that, I won't hold you guys in here too long. So I call this meeting adjourned at, small note. This clock time is 7:50 here, and it's 8:08 up there, so I'm trying to figure out what time it is.
Yeah,
the whole time
go
we've been
by
here.
your phone. That's always accurate. It's 8:07.
Sorry, I do have one actual question, and I just thought about that. Something I noticed when we did this, because of this project, when we're doing this subdivision, the reason I brought up the question about other projects that we had that were only allowed to be rental, is there any way that we can utilize this set of zoning to encourage more projects that come in that allow for or only allowed to do for sale? Because right now what we're doing is we're producing this so that way they can sell it, but it seems like there may be a lot of spaces in the city where they're already set up to just go, these will allow you to do rentals, and thus we don't even have to have this conversation. Is there something we can do to kind of promote?
There is the possibility to create incentives for someone to choose the ownership option. We can look at that. We have been kind of looking at that for a while now. We're also looking at other incentives such as lot consolidations and so forth. We haven't gotten around to codifying those yet. We can't make a requirement per se for two reasons. One, it's a property right to be able to sell or to have an apartment, and the other is that we would be anticipating the housing market in the city in a year from now or 2 years from now, and that's not really anything that we're qualified to do, any of us. So builders, on the other hand, have a much better sense of the pulse of the market, and and I think the applicant had even mentioned that if sales are good, things will go faster, right? But if sales are slow, then things will take longer. They just that's just the way housing works, and none of us in this room can tell you whether or not the demand that's going to come up in 2 years or something is going to be for renters or owners.
Yeah.
We're all banking on it being owners and hoping so, especially the applicant, I'm sure. But that's the reason why we don't want to get to the point where we're dictating one or the other.
Makes sense. Yep. Well, thank you. Okay, so we'll call the meeting adjourned at 8:09 p.m.
8:09.